I am super excited about this. He will tell you his story, and everything he says about me is going to be very humble, but he should give the dirtiest of secrets with you about working with me. He has not only started working with me years ago, he's become friend. He's like family to us, to my wife. He's a business partner and a co-founder of Food Dog. I would like to welcome up Aaron Hughes!
All right. Oh, thank you. Wow, what a greeting. Thank you, everyone. All right, grab a seat, grab a seat. Thank you so much. My name is Aaron Hughes. I'm a co-founder of Food Dog Group. How great was it to hear Mike today? Yeah. Now you get a taste of what my life is like every day. Mike is absolutely relentless. I live 2 hours. I live in Central Time, or I live in Mountain Time, so I'm 2 hours different. So I'll wake up at 8 o'clock my time, or I'll get to my office at 8 o'clock my time. It's like 10 o'clock Mike's time, and he's been texting me relentlessly all morning. And even when I'm wrapping up for the day, he's still cranking away on text. So working with Mike is such a privilege. It's 24/7 what you saw right here. It's nonstop, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story because I know some of you know it. Some of you know some of it. Not all of you know all of it. And some of you don't know me at all, and you're not sure who I am. And so I'm going to share a little bit with you. When I was a kid, the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a writer. That was my identity. I desperately wanted to be a writer. And I dreamed of what it would be like. I only knew certain avenues of what you could be a writer as, like a novelist or a journalist. And so I kind of grew up hoping desperately to be a writer, although I didn't know what that would look like. And then in high school, I had an opportunity to be a journalist. I was like, yes, this is it. Do we have any journalists in the room? Any journalists? All right, I don't see anyone. Good. Okay, well then I'm going to tell you what it's really like. I did it for a little while, and it felt like I was an ambulance chaser. I was so excited about a car wreck. I was so excited to hear that a store had, caught a shoplifter or something. And one day I was driving around. My assignment was find a kid who was making a snowman because we had our first snowfall of the year. Well, there's only a little bit of snow, and all the kids were in school, and I'm driving around thinking, I'm either chasing a really negative story, or I'm looking for these stupid pictures of kids who don't exist making snowmen. It wasn't fun, and I knew journalism wasn't for me. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll be a novelist. But I don't really, that's not my world. It's not what I want to do. I can't write dialogue, if you want to know what it really is. I'm not a dialogue guy. If it was a mystery, I'd be like, oh, the butler did it right on the first page. And so I'm like, novelist is not for me. You need good connections. I'm not going to be J.K. Rowling, Stephen King. There's a million novelists. We only see the 1% who are successful, and I didn't want to also have a job as a waiter while I'm hoping for a big break on my book. And so my identity that I had held for so long as a writer started to crumble, and by my teenage years, I was in despair. It was in despair, and it was like being I was walking around dead, because the one identity I had was no longer a possibility for me. It was really hard. And I thought about, well, what am I going to do? I went down to the local Navy recruiting office, and I tried to sign up there, but they're like, well, we're kind of, we're looking for someone who has some kind of experience, and we're kind of in a recession right now. We're only hiring 3 years on and 3 months on, 3 months off. Just come back in a little bit. And I didn't want to wait. I'm like, I have to figure out something for my future right now. And I wasn't in a good place where I was living. I was starting to get involved with people who weren't good people to be around. I don't know if people know me or not, if you might have guessed this, but I ended up carrying around a weapon. I almost got into fights. It was not the person you see up here. And so then one day I'm like, I'm going to seminary. I'm going to become a minister. And I bought a plane ticket. I found a seminary that was far away across the country. I'd never been there before, and I knew one person who went there. I didn't like them, but I at least knew where they were, and I knew where this place was. I packed everything I owned into a backpack, and I flew across the country, and I didn't have a place to stay. So, I can see in the rearview mirror, I was just trying to get out of where I was. But I was, okay, I'm on this path, I'm going to be a minister. But I knew by my second year, I like the studies. I can read ancient Greek, which, I use that every day. But I knew, okay, I'm not going to be a minister. I need to be a writer. I have to find a way to be a writer. That is my identity. And so I finished. I believe in finishing what you start. And so I went through, I got a 4-year Bachelor of Theology degree. And surprisingly, I actually do use a lot of it. In spite of my ancient Greek joke, I use a lot of it because lots of studies were on human interaction and studying ancient cultures. And I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit. And so I finished, and I started my very first writing company, Inkling Writing Services, which I thought was kind of a clever name. And that lasted about a year. And then I failed. I ran out of money because I couldn't sell, I couldn't market my services, and so I could write if someone wanted, they wanted I think I did a resume, I did an article in a newsletter, that type of thing, but I couldn't sell my services, and I almost died again. I was like the Walking Dead, because the one identity I had, suddenly I failed at. And so I got a real job and became a finance, a leasing guy, a manager at a finance place. I ended up becoming a stockbroker and got my MBA. And then in 2005, I don't remember the day, but I remember the event so clearly. My wife worked downtown. I was working out of a home office trying to get my stock brokerage up and running. And my wife's name is Janelle. And I said, Janelle, we got to grab lunch. Let's have a conversation. She worked downtown. I met her at this second floor, it was like a table, this little restaurant on the second floor of a mall. It was outside, and I still remember it so clearly. And we sat there and we ate, and I was like, I can't be a stockbroker. I hate it. I got to go back to writing. I failed once, and we had just gotten married, and I'm like, I failed you once with the one thing that I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. And she's like, you know what? I'm working. I'll support you until we get it figured out. How many people in the room have had a spouse support them while they're figuring out their dreams? Yeah. If your spouse is in the room, thank them and give them a kiss, because that is such a gift. And so on the first Monday of August in 2005, I started another writing company. And finally, things started to click. My previous work as a stockbroker, in my MBA, as a leasing manager, those things coalesced together. I was able to market my skills. I had skills that I could market beyond just writing, and I started to get clients. And by October 2005, so August, September, October, 3 months, I remember this day so well, I called up Janelle and I was like, quit your job. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And it felt so good. And she has had a job since then, but it was because it was what she wanted to do. We didn't need the money. And right now she does all kinds of amazing things that she doesn't need to work. And it was such a privilege to make that transition. I'm so thankful for that stepping stone. She was willing to support me. And then I was able to say, thank you. We actually can make it work. That was 2005. And in 2005, I started my writing company. I became a copywriter, which is something I didn't know about before. I became a copywriter, and then in very short order, I became a real estate investing copywriter. I really wanted to specialize in real estate investing. I was interested in it. It kind of had ties back to my time as a stockbroker, to my MBA, so it was a topic I could write about with some credibility and authority. And one of my very first clients is someone speaking on the stage today, not today, tomorrow, Mark Evans. So if you know Mark is coming, he was one of my first clients in 2005. He had already been real estate investing, but he was just sort of getting his start in marketing beyond real estate investing and building up, I think, what he calls the DM family or something like that. And it was he and I starting together on that journey in 2005. And so I started writing for real estate investors. I was also building my own credibility. My MBA dissertation became my first book called The Sales Funnel Bible, and it was one of the first books ever written on sales funnels. Everyone's talking about sales funnels now, which I think is great, but where were they all in 2008 or something when I wrote The Sales Funnel Bible? And then later on, I wrote the Real Estate Investing Copywriter's Playbook because I wanted to share with people the things I was doing for real estate investors. And so from about 2005 on, I was the real estate investing copywriter. And then in 2014, I got a very interesting call. I got a call from Mark Evans. And Mark said to me, he said, Aaron, I've got a friend who I want you to do some writing for him. And I was used to writing for some pretty big names. I mentioned some yesterday. If you're a real estate investor, I've written for Real Estate Guys Radio, Kent Clothier, Appfolio, a piece of software that real estate investors use. If you're on the automotive side, I've written for Mitchell, Gerber Auto Body. I've also written for little tiny companies you might never have heard of called SAP, HP, and Microsoft. So I've written for quite a range of people. I really love real estate investing, copywriting, and I loved real estate investing world. And so when Mark Evans said, I want you to talk to a friend of mine, my first question was, well, is he a real estate investor? And Mark says, no, he's an HVAC guy in New Jersey. Like, no, I'm good, thanks, I'm good. And so then Mark's like, Aaron, you really should have a conversation with them. And so I'm like, oh, well, have him email me. Email me. And so he emailed me, and his name was Mike Agliero. I had never heard of him before. He was running an HVAC, plumbing, electrical company in New Jersey, and he wanted to write a book. I was like, well, Mike, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but I'm really focused on real estate investing. He's like, no, let's just work on this. And you've seen him on the stage here. Is he a little relentless or a lot relentless? He's a lot relentless. And he asked me a couple times, all right, how about we work on that book? And finally, I was like, you know what? Let's do one project together. I'll do one project for you, Mike. We'll write your book together. I'll help edit it and get it to publication. And so in February 2014, I relented and started working with Mike. And then one project led to another project, And finally, in 2017, when he started another company called CEO Warrior, he's like, Aaron, I would really love it if you would start working for me even more than just the projects you're doing, if you would work for me full time. And I put him off again a little bit. I said no a little bit. And then in 2018, I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it. The challenge I had was that my identity had morphed from being a writer to being a real estate investing copywriter. And now all of a sudden I was giving up that identity to become something else. It was a real struggle. I don't think, maybe he knows. I don't know if he knows how big of a struggle it was for me to make that shift from being a real estate investing copywriter to something else, like a marketer. And it was a big, big step, and I wrestled with it for a very long time. And finally, like, okay, all right, let's do it. So that was about 2018. I worked full-time for Mike as his marketing director. And then in 2019, he said, I have an idea, Aaron. And when Mike has an idea, he's got like 10 other ideas stacked up behind him, and you just better buckle up and get on board. Just say yes, because that's probably you're going to do it anyway. So you might as well, like, why bother pushing back? And he's like, I've got an idea, Aaron. He says, I've been focused on martial arts, on personal growth for 30 years. And he says, Jennifer, too, has been focused on this personal growth journey for so long, help people in fire walks. And I mean, you've heard all the things that he's done. And he's like, I know that you as well have been on your own journey. You love personal growth. You have been wrestling with these identities. He's like, I'd like to do something together with you. What if we started a company? And so we got together in 2019. I remember that day so clearly, too. We were sitting at a restaurant. We were trying some new food. The windows were open because it was a beautiful summer day, and the light was shining in. It was so blinding. I'm sure it was some sort of celestial sign that I was in the right place because I could barely see anything. And we came up with the name Food Dog Group. It was a powerful moment. Why I remember it. And we're like, okay, Food Dog Group, what's that going to be like? And then in January 2020, Mike and I were on a trip, and we started charting out what Food Dog Group would become. And we wrote it out. I still have the papers. It was a really neat moment. While we were on that trip, we were kind of sharing this tiny table and working together over lunch on those papers. And then Mike exited his company in the end of 2020, and in I think it was early December 2020. And on December 26, 2020, he messages me. He's like, Aaron, I'm bored. Let's get started. So like, okay, let's do it. And it was another identity shift for me, because I went from being a writer, the only thing I ever wanted to do in life, right from since I was a kid. Every time I almost wasn't a writer, I struggled and felt like I almost died. And then suddenly, here I am now, talking about being a co-founder of a personal growth company. It was exciting because anything in Mike's world is exciting, electrifying, and intense. And yet it was so different from the identities that I had built up for myself over the years. But in time, I created a new identity for myself. I worked on shifting identities in myself, and then I feel like my new identity is to be an inspiring leader to help other people shift their identities. And that's what we're talking about here at Change the Channel, is shifting identities. That's the whole Change the Channel, is changing the channel of your identity. The identity that was serving you for as long as it has been, now what's the new identity that will take you to where you want to go? So that's what we're going to talk about. Michael, can we throw the slides on, starting with, yeah, you've got the slide numbers there, starting with the first one.